All right, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope everyone is doing well today. My name is Safa Basadik. I am a supervising prevention consultant for NJ4S Union Hub here for Prevention Links. And I want to say happy July. It is July 1st. And with that, we are introducing our latest webinar series for the month of July. And we have an emphasis on mental health awareness, especially for this month. It is National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. So, without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker for today, our prevention consultant, Jennifer Destra. She will be presenting a presentation to inform us a little bit more about disabilities. And her presentation is entitled Disabilities are not all visible. Some are visible and some are not. So we'll be learning a little bit about that today with our webinar. But before we get into that, I would like everyone to get to know Jennifer a little bit better. On the level that I know her. So Jennifer Destra is a prevention consultant for NJ4S Union. With a background in finance and professional sales, she's currently pursuing her master's in clinical mental health counseling, blending her studies to address societal issues. As a first generation Haitian in an urban community where mental health and trauma often goes unaddressed, Jennifer knows firsthand the challenges imposed by societal and cultural norms, and she is passionate about breaking these stigmas. Motivated by the belief that influence begins early in life, especially as children seek connection and a sense of belonging, Jennifer desires to help individuals overcome challenges using accessible resources, encouraging healthy coping mechanisms, and fostering self-compassion to better support others. Beyond her work, Jennifer advocates for holistic healing in her personal life, creating a community for others to embark on this journey of self-discovery and creating a community for others to embrace authenticity. This includes creating personal content and spiritual wellness podcasts through her church community and facilitating groups and launching a blog very soon, so tune in. Jennifer also finds a joy in experiencing different cultures through travel, trying new things, and cherishing simple pleasures like quality time, scenic views, and eating. So, without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer, and you have the floor.
Thanks, Alpha. Okay, so the topic today is called Disabilities Not All Are Visible. I feel like this relates as well with the Minority Awareness Month because, especially like talking about on the topic of cultural humility, a lot of different cultures see disabilities and what they classify as disabilities different and what they choose to acknowledge and address. So it's very important to kind of point out the ones that are not necessarily seen by the naked eye. Okay, so for the agenda today, we'll be talking about what is a disability, the types of disability. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on hidden or also called hidden is invisible disabilities, the challenge faced with them, how we can like support and advocate, and then like a quick conclusion. So, first off, what is a disability? So, an individual with a disability is defined by the American Disabilities Association as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. So, this includes like breathing, learning, working, digesting food, walking, talking, like any of our day-to-day activities that requires a lot of our energy, is also classified as someone who has a history or record of such of impairment. So this is like medical history, for kids who may not have a medical diagnosis just yet, just like a report of particular set of behaviors that may encourage teachers to ask parents or their guardians to seek medical treatment or medical advice, and then also a person who is perceived by others as having such an impairment. So this is more so like disability discrimination. This one's more catered towards the visible disabilities because people will see it with the naked eye. People have their beliefs and perceptions on it already, and they may face discrimination based on, not having that sense of normalcy that society expects of us to have. So going into the types of disability, it's very like a clear cut. There's the visible ones. So these are the ones that are easily noticed when you look at or talk to a person. So they may have like an assistive device. So this could be someone who has like a wheelchair or crutches, or, like I forgot what it's called, but to help with hearing. They may have like a particular set of actions or behaviors that they do. So you may see that they may have sensory problems, or they may have issues that you can see in their appearance. It could be something within their physical features that also can be noticeable. And it could be something in their way they communicate. So when talking to them or talking to someone, you may notice that something may be different in how they speak or how they communicate. They may use different types of languages to be able to communicate, and also other things as well. And then there's the invisible disabilities. These are also called hidden disabilities. These are symptoms that are not immediately apparent, but they significantly impact daily living. So there's no disability that's bigger than the other. They're both just as much needed to be recognized. It's just one you cannot see. They typically may be going through it, and then the visible is the ones that you can see. So this is just a video on just a couple examples of invisible disabilities. I would like you guys to just look at them and see if there's any of them that may stick out to you, or things that you may not have known was an invisible disability.
Endometriosis is a condition that affects 1 in 10 women.
Since the cancer operation, I have a syndrome called LARS.
Generalized anxiety disorder, depression, eating disorder, traits of PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. And then she's since developed and been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome.
I've got post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD as it's known. I've also got a mild traumatic brain injury, so I suffer with like short and long-term memory loss there. I've got dyscalculia, which is like a form of dyslexia, but with numbers, which is acquired because of the bump on the head.
I get varying degrees of vertigo, so I can have clusters of vertigo attacks, which means that for weeks on end, I can have anything from 1 to 3 attacks of vertigo a day.
I was 30, so yeah, I was pretty young to have bowel cancer.
High blood pressure and something called borderline left ventricular hypertrophy. He also has other conditions, so he's autistic, and he was diagnosed with autism when he was 2. He has ADHD, which he was diagnosed with when he was 6, and more recently he was diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome.
Hi, I'm Lucy, I'm 39 and I live with Parkinson's.
My name's Matthew, I'm 37 years old and I'm autistic.
Okay. So are there any of these disabilities that may have stuck out to you, or ones that you may have not known was an invisible disability? Honestly, a lot of them that stood out to me, either from personal experience or someone close to me who experienced or experiences it. Yeah, so a lot of these, like if you were to walk on the street, or you having a typical conversation, maybe not a long enough conversation, you may not have known that some people may be going through certain things, but these are also disabilities as well. We're gonna go and talk a little bit about the common misconceptions with disabilities, as well as some facts that I found to kind of like bring them together. Okay, so first, these are the categories of hidden disabilities. So yeah, there's a lot of disabilities that I didn't know were hidden disabilities, like cancer, lupus, all these but they fall within different categories because overall what separates them is that when having a regular conversation or just a quick and pass by, you wouldn't notice it, as opposed to someone who's like in a wheelchair who has a physical disability. But chronic pain and fatigue, these are also physical disabilities. So this could include MS, multiple sclerosis, migraines, fibromyalgia. This could be someone who also has cerebral palsy. So these are ones that like has spinal issues, but like if you were to just be walking next to them or talking to them, you may not have known. Chronic pain is also an invisible disability because this is something that this is ongoing and they have to endure it, and usually requires high dosages of different medications, but on the outside you wouldn't see it. And as well as fatigue. So this is impacting someone's daily living. In some cases, it could cause narcolepsy or, severe insomnia where, they're not getting enough sleep or not being able to function throughout their daily activities. This could go hand in hand with autoimmune disabilities, which is another category of physical disabilities, but they're more chronic. So this could be lupus, thyroid issues, diabetes, anything that attacks where the body's attacking itself. But if you were to have conversations with these people, most people who have these conditions on a day-to-day are able to complete majority of their task is just struggling internally. Mental health conditions also fall within hidden disabilities because you don't see it. Someone who may have depression, they may function, they may still go to work, they may still go to sleep, they may still go to the gym, do their daily tasks, but internally they're not okay. They still need support. This could include PTSD as well as the long-term effects of trauma. So that can come up within different scenarios, schizophrenia, and as well as many other mental health conditions. There's also neurological disorders, which is more like sensory. So these are high sensitive, hyperactive disorders. This could be epilepsy, which is like sensitive to like flashing lights or just having seizures. Deafness as well, that's a neurological sensory disability. Tourette's, autism, and then there's also developmental disabilities. So this is more so catered to like learning disabilities. So a lot of people are familiar with dyslexia, with having difficulty reading and writing, but now have expanded. There's also dyscalculia, which is like having struggles with numbers, and just not being able to process things together. And this could also include ADHD, anything that causes problems within the mind to be able to like learn and process information. And then there's digestive disorders. This could be IBS, Crohn's disease, anything that has to do with the endocrine system. Like these are disabilities that just affects how we process things in our bodies. So it's important to recognize that like you may not see these things by the naked eye, but it is our job to not just make assumptions about people, because people go through things that they may not necessarily speak about, or that just because you can't see them doesn't mean that it's not there. So these are some facts and statistics that I thought stuck out to me when I was doing this. So having a disability doesn't always mean you're disabled. So a lot of times people may have these impairments, that's what they call them, but it doesn't mean that they're disabled. According to the ADA, in order to be classified as disabled, it significantly impacts you doing your daily functions. So if you can't go like a good chunk of your day being able to function on your own, then you have that eligibility or the qualifications to be able to be medically diagnosed as disabled. But a lot of people suffer through disabilities or have different forms of disabilities, but that doesn't mean that they're not functionable or able. And then also people with visible disabilities can also have invisible disabilities. So someone who may have a prosthetic leg could also have depression as well too, or also suffer from a digestive disability as well too. So it's not to just put people in a box and assume that if I don't see it, it's not there, as well as, oh, you are in a wheelchair, but that doesn't mean you have other issues as well too. It also says over 42 million Americans have a severe disability, and 96% of them are unseen, and 10% of them report their disabilities to employer. These kind of stood out to me because I know, like, when you apply for a job, there's a section that asks you, like, to list any type of disabilities that you may have or any impairments that you may have. And I know a lot of people, like, I remember even applying to certain jobs where I might have to do some lifting or things. Like, there was a time where I was having issues with my right leg, but it was just more so like I needed to take rest breaks because of an injury I had in school. However, like, I remember my mom was like, "Don't tell them. Don't tell them you have anything wrong with you," because culturally it seemed like a weakness to have a disability, and a lot of people think that they won't get the job or they won't get equal opportunity if they report these disabilities. But a lot of disabilities go undocumented, unreported, because people don't want to perceive themselves as having a disability. But the law doesn't provide benefits. That has to do with the American Disabilities Act, which is designed to protect the rights if you have an impairment, but it doesn't provide benefits. It just protects you for having equal opportunity. So if you want to qualify for disability benefits, my recommendation to you is look through the Social Security Blue Book, which you can find on ssa.gov, and it'll tell you what qualifies for disability benefits. But the American Disability Act is designed to protect rights if you do have an impairment, and that substantially impacts daily living activities such as breathing and digesting food. So something that stuck out to me is that if you have severe food allergies, that can apply. So, yeah. So what seems to be the problem? A lot of people know that there is a wide array of disabilities, but the world is not fair. A lot of people have different stigmas behind invisible disabilities. The primary one is disbelief and doubt. It's we live in a society where, like, if we don't see it, it's not real. And so that creates, skepticism, where people feel like you have to prove that you're disabled or prove that you have a disability. Because on the other aspect of things, there are people that fake disabilities to receive the benefits. But for those who are actually going through these things, like, it creates a challenge for them constantly having to prove it because they cannot see it. Going back to the cultural humility, like, certain nationalities or certain backgrounds don't believe that depression or mental health disorders are a hindrance to your daily function, but it could be. This could also lead to judgment and misunderstanding. There's a lot of different levels of knowledge that are being exposed, and so people may misunderstand certain symptoms. For instance, a child could be struggling with math, and they could say, like, they can't focus when they're taking an exam, or maybe need some extra time, and a teacher who may not have the knowledge could perceive that child as being lazy, or just not doing their homework, or just not wanting to be in school. But it could be an underlying issue that they need to seek attention to. So that could lead to judgment as well. And then also the society expectations of normalcy. Like, society has its standards of how we should look, act, talk, and be, and everybody is different. And so, you could pull up to a parking lot and see someone getting out of their car who's parked in the handicap spot, and they could be walking, they could be talking, but you don't know that they may have an underlying disability that qualifies them to be disabled. But a lot of people would just turn an eye and just be like, no, by my eyes, you're not disabled, you're not going to you're not going through a disability. Like, you're perfectly fine. You're just faking to get the spot. So it's just that society's expectations on us that kind of diminishes people who are actually going through symptoms like, you know, or different disabilities like chronic pain, fatigue, all those that I discussed before. And this could also lead to isolation and mental health impact. A lot of people, when they finally disclose or when they actually share with people that they go through underlying health issues, it might lead them to be separated from people. Like, some people don't know how to perceive that, and this underlying umbrella that if you have a disability, that you're sick and you shouldn't be around certain people, or you shouldn't be touched, or you shouldn't be like viewed as normal. And this could lead to isolation or just, you know, separation. And this could, you know, severely impact someone's mental health if you don't have the knowledge or know how to support someone in that situation. And even for the person who is going through the disability may struggle with that too. And that could lead to difficulty accessing support. A personal example could be like, I remember there was a time where, you know, I really wanted to seek a medical professional, and like my job paired me with one. My previous job paired me with one through BetterHelp, and like they had these series of questions of like having to prove why I wanted to see a medical professional. But this was like years ago, and I hope it's different now, but like it's almost as if you have to prove that you have a problem in order to seek the support. And that's a common, you know, struggle that people who have invisible disabilities go through. So yeah. Oh. Okay. So these are just some things that people with invisible illness hear.
Don't you just want to go out and live a normal, healthy life?
Those are grandpa's symptoms. You're too young to be sick like that.
That's not a real diagnosis. I've never heard of it.
It's all in your head. Remember, mind over matter.
Stop pretending. There's nothing wrong with you.
You're one of those?
Really? You need to lay down
Quit being
again?
lazy.
If you eat more and move more, you should see my
Yeah,
chiropractor.
but my pain's real.
I wish I had a disease that made me
You're
skinny.
too young to have
It must be
all this
nice
going
not
on.
to work.
There's nothing wrong with you.
It's all in your head.
Okay, so are any of these anyone who may have an invisible disability, or anyone who has experienced someone who or been around someone who's had an invisible disability? Do any of these sound familiar to you, or have you even been on the opposite side and given these responses not knowing that they were going through an invisible disability? I could be very honest, like recently I have one of my closest friends. She's our age and she has diabetes, but it's not 1 or 2. It's one that's more of an autoimmune disease. And prior to her finding out that she had this disability, I remember she was like explaining that she was just like constantly tired and just feeling like she was very low, and like almost like in a depressive state of mood. And like I was just kind of like, I knew she was also like doing these series of dieting, and I was kind of on like, oh, you know, maybe we just need to change what we eat, or maybe we just eat a lot of sugar, or maybe we just need to like change our diet. And I didn't realize until afterwards that there was just a lot of knowledge that I need to brush up on. So it's very easily common to be able to judge those, or just be able to say the things that we didn't know. I've heard many of these before. It's so hard for others to understand when they can't feel or see what we are experiencing. Yeah, that's really like the major meat of it, is that like it's really hard to process or even be in the other person's point of view to have that level of advanced empathy when we're not actually seeing it. And then sometimes the healthcare providers doubt when you go for a visit. And I've heard many of them due to my own invisible disability. Yeah. It's kind of hard when we live in a world where it's like you kind of have to prove yourself every day that something is wrong with you, even when you know that there's something wrong with you. Like, what people can say, or even when even healthcare professionals will have their own biases, but having that advanced empathy, we can still be able to help people in those situations and even help ourselves. So what can we do to help? So we can educate ourselves and others. So those who have invisible disabilities, like sometimes people may not know that you're going through something, and it's really hard to say because like you don't want to feel like you have to prove something is wrong with you, but some people just lack the knowledge and understanding. And sometimes it's an opportunity to educate others so that moving forward, they don't make those same mistakes again. And even ourselves on the opposite end, who may not experience the invisible disability, but we want to be able to support those who are in that, sphere. So, I always say Google is your friend, because like you can find resources, you can look up things to kind of further educate. One of the things that they said in the video is that I've looked up your illness. Like my mom and my family, they're very big herbalists, and so like my mom is always constantly looking up different herbal remedies to help out my friend, or just like any family member who's going through something. So just taking the time to educate yourself and others, it can make a lot of impact. Another thing is to not make assumptions. Like you said, invisible disabilities, and even with visible disabilities, a lot of people look at people's disabilities and make that their character, and that's not okay. Like you should never assume something about someone, and if you don't know, like, is nothing wrong with asking if your intentions is to genuinely learn. So even giving that opportunity to ask questions and then listening to them, like going back to the cultural humility training, it really did a lot as far as like active listening, because sometimes we listen to people for a response. Like I remember like growing up, depression is not a thing in the Haitian community, like, and just mental health issues are not a thing in the Haitian community. And so like sometimes even when you're like explaining things to people, they're like waiting to give you your response, or waiting to be like, oh, you just need to go to sleep, or you need to just do this, or just ready to give you like a quick fix response. And sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes people just need you to listen to them and to actually validate what they're saying, and being able to just repeat back to what they're saying so that they know that they're being heard. And that can do a lot, just even allowing someone to get through their day knowing that they're being heard. With invisible disabilities, some people may not, because you can't see it, not always they will they disclose it. And if they choose not to disclose it, at the end of the day, you have the choice to do whatever you want to do. So it's like, if someone doesn't want to share that with you, or they don't feel the need to explain things to you, like, respect their privacy. This is a very intimate matter. With some people, with others, they might want to have that opportunity to share, but this is something that they're going through, so you wouldn't want to take that from them. As much as you would want to help, like, also giving grace and respecting people's privacy is how we can help as well too, because when they feel comfortable to share or even ask for help, then they will do so. Another way we can do to help is to offer support. So this could be something as simple like someone who's going through chronic migraines. I was watching a video of what that looks like in a 24-hour day, and it ranges anywhere from mild pain to like severe shot out pains throughout the body. And something as simple as like, do you want a Tylenol or aspirin, or is this good for you? Or just even offering like, what can I do to help? asking them what you can do to help can make a difference. Because sometimes you could be like I was asking my friend this morning, like, is there do you feel like now that you have disclosed that you have diabetes to certain people, like, do you feel like they look at you differently? And she'll say, like, yeah, like I could be eating a lollipop and all of a sudden people are like, no, no. And it's like, just because I have diabetes doesn't mean I can't have any type of sugar. It just means that my insulin levels spike higher than others. But, asking, like, is that okay? Or asking, like, you know, if there's any way that they can support instead of, straight out rebuking or judging them, that can be an assistance. And even making accommodations. This could include, like, in the workplace as well, taking mental health breaks, having mental health days, doing other activities for kids who have developmental disabilities, maybe even offering that they can be able to, like, color or draw in class, or just being able to have accommodations to step out or step away, to just lay down in the nurse's office, and just finding ways that we can help in the littlest ways can make a difference, a huge difference. And then just advocating for accessibility. A lot of times when it comes for advocation, we think that it's like a big thing, but just being able to speak up for someone and, like, acknowledging that, there may be facing discrimination, or just that, this could help out this demographic, or just, being able to have these little things for inclusion and diversity to make room in environments where people feel like they belong, even when they're going through things that people cannot see. So in conclusion, I just want to leave you guys with a quote. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. You can't see the future, yet you know it will come. You can't see the air, yet you continue to breathe. And this is by Claire London. And so all in all, I just want to wrap up in just saying that in disability awareness, just because we can't see that someone is going through something by the naked eye, or they just appear to be fine, sometimes a simple "how are you doing?" or just taking the time to look at people or just listen to what they say makes room for you to acknowledge that, they might be going through something and you might have something to offer to support. So that's really all. I just want to thank you guys. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, that's really my spiel.
A lot of us can kind of relate. Either we've been on, either side of either side of the spectrum. So I know, for example, myself, as I mentioned before, I do have a sibling who does have a visible disability, and I can only imagine how how the experience is for someone whose disability is visible, but then there are other disabilities that are invisible, and that brings another set of challenges. So this presentation was very useful, and I feel like, we can definitely take this information and apply it to our line of work and our personal lives as well. So I do just want to say for one more time, thank you so much for the presentation. And I want to thank everyone for participating and also giving their feedback. I put a link in the chat for an additional opportunity for viewers to give their feedback. If you like the presentation today, please take a couple minutes just to give your thoughts and feedback to Jen. And if you like the presentations that we have and maybe have another, maybe another suggestion, or would you like to hear more, please do so and send us an email at NJ4SUnionHub@gmail.com. We're open to suggestions, feedback, comments, concerns. And if you want to keep up with what we have going on for the rest of the month and just in general, you can follow us on our Instagram page, which is NJ4S Union Hub. And you can also follow us on Facebook. We have a lot of information. We have a lot of things going on. So please check us out. And if any other comments or concerns you'd have, please reach out. We are open to all comments, feedback, and we'd like to hear from you. Please stay tuned for the rest of the July